Good afternoon, Year 3. I hope you had an absolutely fantastic time at the Arboretum. I know I always enjoy it when I go. It's such a wonderful place to go and have a day out in the fresh air with the trees, and that skywalk one where you walk across the boardwalk up at the tops of the trees is absolutely amazing. So we're going to concentrate our artwork this week on something that follows on from the work we were doing last week, but includes some work on trees. And we're actually going to look at the structure of a tree, what goes on inside of a tree to make it strong, and how the tree grows. So we're going to look at the growth rings of a tree. So I'll show you what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, if you just hold on. So this is what we're going to concentrate our attention on this afternoon. We're going to have a look at a tree that's been cut right through the middle. Someone's chopped this tree down, and you can see inside of the tree all of the different woods that we have and the bark on the outside. But also, if we look carefully, we can see the rings, what are called the growth rings. So if we look carefully, we can see right in the middle here was when the tree was planted. So it was a little sapling, which was probably about as thick as my pencil. If you look around that ring, there's another ring. So each year that the tree grows, it expands, it gets wider by a certain amount each year. So that creates a ring. So if we count the number of rings, we can count the number of years that this tree has been alive. Now we're going to have a go at making a drawing out of this. But before we do, we're going to start off by practicing or remembering some of the techniques that we learnt last week. So you'll need just a bit of rough paper, and we're going to practice by using our pencil. We're going to hold our pencil like we would if we were writing, and we're just going to make marks on the piece of paper. Marks on the piece of paper, like so. That's what I'm doing. Now, excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough at the moment. So, there's the marks. Now, the next time we make those marks, we're not going to press quite as hard on the paper. So I'm just trying to make a mark that's not so dark. Remember last week we were looking at light and dark. So if I show you here, it's a little bit harder to see those ones. And the next one I'm going to do, I'm going to make even lighter. So I'm just going to tickle the paper with the pencil. So the pencil is just, it's the weight of the pencil almost that's going down. So this one we can see really clearly. This one we can see not quite so clearly. And this one we have to look at really, really carefully to be able to see it. If I move that out, this is going to be really important. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to try and make a dot on the paper that you can see, but nobody else can. You can see by looking really carefully. So we're going to try and do something that's as light as possible. I don't want a dot like this that you can see really clearly, and you'll see why in a minute. So we're not looking for dots like that. We're looking for a dot that's made just by letting the pencil drop onto the paper and make it as light as you possibly can. Yeah, so practice that. Dark lines, and it could be any pattern that you want or any shape that you want, but you're putting pressure on here, and then lighter pressure and lighter and lighter until you get to a stage where you can see. It's important that you can see it, but you can't see it too clearly. Okay, have a go with that. Now the next thing I want you to do, and this is on a paper that's going to be squared, I want you to take that pencil and I want you to try a little dot right in the middle that you can see. And I got to hold this up really close to the camera for you to be able to see that dot. As long as you can see it, that's the main thing. And then we're going to make a dot that goes from the middle to the outside of the paper. We're going to make, these are going to be little growth rings. So we're going to put a dot quite close together. It doesn't matter if that's exactly the same distance, because trees don't grow exactly the same each year, so it doesn't matter if it's slightly wider. So I've taken my dots from the middle of the paper. I hope you can see that. I can see it. So when you've done that, all you need to do is to put your pencil right on the dot in the middle and draw a small circle. Now you can make that circle so that it's really clear. You should be able to see the circle with the dots. Then I'm going to move out slightly, put my pencil on the next dot, and I'm going to go around like so. So now I've got 2 circles. I'm going to move on to the next dot, and I'm going to go around. Now, it won't be a perfect circle, but it will mimic or look like the rings of a tree. So I go back to where I started. Each time I start off at the dot, I follow the shape around, come back to where I started. So that's the little rule we've got this time. Start at the dot, follow around the circle, and the circles are getting bigger and bigger each time, and they're losing their shape a little bit, and that's absolutely fine. I'll do one more for you. So you go around like so. Make sure there's always a little gap between, you don't cross over the lines. So we're going to start off, and that's how we're going to start. When you've done that, you'll find that we can, the more you do, the more we get towards the edge of the paper. So you keep going. This one's nearly there. You keep going until you get not quite to the edge, excuse me, but nearly to the edge, until we've got the shape of the tree and the tree growth that we're looking for. So once you got to that stage, you've done extremely well. Now, if I just take you back to this one that we're following, we can see here that the wood is darker here. It gets lighter and lighter as it goes out. So, and right on the outside it gets dark again, because this is the bark. So this is right in the middle of the wood, and this is what's called the heartwood. And that's the real strong part of the tree that keeps it up. And then we've got the sapwood. That's where all the moisture rises up through to feed all of the leaves and the buds and the flowers and the fruits. And then on the outside we've got the protective, like we've got our skin on the outside, we've got a protective circle that runs around the outside, and you can see some of this is peeling off. So we want to make this darker. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to take my pencil sharpener, and I'm going to sharpen my pencil right over the middle of that tree growth rings. So I've sharpened my pencil. I'm now just going to take the wooden bits out, because funny enough I don't want the wooden bits, I just want the graphite. And you can see the graphite there, the bit of the pencil that I've sharpened. Now I'm going to use my finger again like we did last week, and I'm just going to rub that gently in a circular movement. Now I'm going to press a little harder, and that's going to give me this darker bit in the middle. And now I'm just going to take what I've got on my finger, and I'm going to rub it more lightly this time. And I'm going to go out a little further. So I'm much more lightly. It's almost like the pencil in the first place. It's going to be lighter, and then that last one I'm going to rub around right around the outside. And now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to brush off those bits. It's better to blow them. Excuse me. So if you want to, you could now use your rubber or eraser and put a little mark in the middle to lighten that up. I'm also now going to take my pencil and I'm going to take it, put it across my hand like so, like we did before and practiced. Put my thumb on it, turn it round, and I'm now going to, if you can't do this way, do it the way that you want to do it. And it won't matter if we go, you can use your pencil holding it like you hold it when you're doing your writing. So all I'm doing now is just shading, and that's what we're doing. And it doesn't matter if it's rough, because we know that bark, when we touch it, is quite a rough surface anyway. So I'm going to go all the way around. I'm going to do it quite quickly because you don't want to waste time, but you can do that carefully. And I'm just working from the inside outside all the time. And I'm trying to keep to that line on the inside, but it doesn't matter if it goes out on the outside. So I'm just going around like that. You see I'm turning the paper, and that makes it easier for me to do. And I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on that way around. And now just give that a little rub on the inside. And now if I look, I can see that some of the bark is coming off a little bit. So I could draw a little thin bit that's coming off like that, and I could give that a little, and then there might be a bit here that's a bit bobbly where it's coming off. And this is what we call just detail. So you should end up with your finger like that, and you should end up with a drawing like that. And then if you wanted to, you could shade that in, or you could colour that in, or you could leave your drawing like that. So that's the heartwood, the sapwood, the outer wood, and the protective bark around the outside. So have fun with that, but it's worth practicing for 5 minutes first of all, just to see that you can get your pencils for those dots, because we don't want to see the dots very clearly. We don't want great big dots when we come to have our finished drawing. But if you do great big dots, then you could always rub them out and just look at the little dents on the paper that you've made, or you could rub it out and then just connect up again. So we can always, with pencil and rubber and eraser, make it good. So have fun with that, and I'll really look forward to seeing you when I see you later on this week.